ranking every single Super Bowl since the year 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, the Super Bowl is just a couple of weeks away, so in honor of the big game, I decided to do a tier list video ranking every single Super Bowl since the year 2000. Now, I was born in the year 2002, so I haven't watched all of these Super Bowls live, but I feel like I have a pretty good knowledge of every single game. I've gone back and done research, obviously, and I have some knowledge of what's happened, so I feel pretty confident in my ranking. This is going to be as objective of a list as possible. I'm going to try not to supersede my fandom of any team into my list rankings, and I do have some categories that I will be ranking the games off of. Category number 1 is historical significance. Did this game alter the history of the National Football League? Number 2 is the storyline. What were the key storylines going into this game? What were they coming out of this game? That is going to shape how good this game was. Additionally, did the game have a fantastic finish? Everybody is a sucker for good finishes.
Pause, bro.
And last, but certainly not least, did they have any huge, significant plays that we will remember for the rest of time? Also, extra bonus points for any Super Bowl records, any forgotten heroes, any surprise heroes, stuff like that. That will be kind of extra credit for these games. All right, and let's go ahead and get into the list. Now, quick disclaimer, I did not make this list. It does look like there is every Super Bowl since 2000, except for last year's versus the Chiefs and Eagles. I will talk about that when we get to the end of the list. And this list seems to not be in any sort of chronological order. So we're just going to go, and we're just going to fly by the seat of our pants here. All right, so starting off with an easy one, Super Bowl 42. I really appreciate that they didn't do Roman numerals because I can't read Roman numerals. But that's clearly goated, right? You look at the categories I presented. Significant plays, absolutely. The David Tyree catch is one of the most important plays in the history of the National Football League. A great finish. You have the Plaxico Burress touchdown catch to win the game. It was awesome. Historical significance, absolutely. This was a huge blow to Tom Brady's legacy, both in the fact that they were the perfect Patriots and the fact that this game, along with another Super Bowl, is going to be what probably gets Eli Manning the Hall of Fame. This game is absolutely historic. And then the storyline. What storyline is better than the undefeated New England Patriots trying to be the first perfect team since the 72 Dolphins, and this team in the Giants that barely made the playoffs, they upset them. It's just perfect. Everything you want in a Super Bowl. Great finish, great plays, great storyline, everything, right? Can't get better than that. All right, let's go to Super Bowl 37. Got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the now Las Vegas, but then Oakland Raiders. I'm going to put this game in kind of mid. Now, I will say it does get points for storyline because the thing with John Gruden was huge because the Raiders had just traded John Gruden to the Buccaneers that year. That was obviously a big storyline, and obviously this Buccaneers defense was fantastic. I mean, he had those guys playing great, but there weren't too many significant plays. Obviously, the Derrick Brooks pick six is going to be the play that's remembered the most, but nothing truly spectacular, I guess you could say. And then in terms of, historical significance, the Super Bowl is not really historically significant. It's the Bucs won, the Raiders lost. Really wasn't a, alterer for anybody's legacy, I don't think. I think this is pretty low on the historically significant scale. Storyline, like I said, was pretty good. It wasn't a fantastic finish. It was kind of a blowout. So honestly, I'm teetering on putting it into bad category. I'll put it in mid for now. If mid category gets a little too filled, maybe I'll put it down. But it wasn't great. Wasn't great. Okay, Colts versus Bears, Super Bowl 41. Now, I think I'm also going to put it in mid. I'll put it a little bit above the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Super Bowl. It does get points for significant play. The Devin Hester kick return is going to be replayed forever. And again, that is bonus points for Super Bowl record, first and only opening kickoff return touchdown. But the game wasn't really close. It was pouring rain. It wasn't a great game. The Bears offense played like shit. The final score was 29-17. They scored 7 points on the first play of the game, right? So they got outscored 19 points the rest of the game. Peyton Manning had a good game, yes, but it wasn't like a insane Peyton Manning game. The storyline in this game, the one big storyline which is significant, is the fact that this is going to be the first Super Bowl to have a black head coach win the Super Bowl, because both Lovie Smith and Tony Dungy were African American. So that's obviously really cool. It is the first Super Bowl like that. This is also Peyton Manning's first and only Super Bowl with the Colts, so it is historically significant for his legacy. But overall, this is not a great Super Bowl. This wasn't a great finish. Like I mentioned, you had the significant play with Devin Hester, but other than that, the Bears didn't really do shit. Peyton Manning played good, not great. The weather was bad; it kind of affected the game. So honestly, kind of a mid Super Bowl. Let's be real here. All right, Super Bowl 38. This Super Bowl is very underrated. It is very, very underrated. So first of all, this was Brady's second ring, and this was featuring in the Carolina Panthers, who had been a franchise for not even 10 years, right? Not even 10 years, and they're already in the Super Bowl. They had Jake Delhomme, they had Steve Smith, Muhsin Muhammad, Julius Peppers. They were led by John Fox. I mean, this was a really good matchup between these two teams. The Patriots had already won a Super Bowl. This was Brady's second. This was in 2000. This was a 2003 season. Now, this Super Bowl is so underrated because not only was there a great finish with Brady getting them in position to have Vinatieri kick the game winner. But what people forget about the Super Bowl is that kickoff that the Panthers kicked to the Patriots, they kicked the ball out of bounds. And so it gave the Patriots good field position. They were able to drive a little bit in the field, and Adam Vinatieri was able to kick that field goal. But this game started off actually pretty slow. And, as the game kind of ramped up, the offense really kicked it into gear. Jake Delhomme, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the longest pass in Super Bowl history belongs to Jake Delhomme in this game. I believe it was to Muhsin Muhammad. Shout out Bears legend. He actually just played in the Super Bowl I just talked about. But this game was actually really good. I think it's one of the most underrated Super Bowls. I mean, you want to talk about historical significance? It was Brady's second. It's not terribly historically significant, but it's a decent amount. The storyline in this game, it wasn't anything special. Brady's second. Obviously, the upstart Panthers, who had been a franchise for not even 10 years, they had just played, an insane game. They had an insane playoff run with a game featuring the Rams as well. That was just bonkers. But what they really get points for is the significant plays and the finish. The finish was great, and the plays that were made were awesome. Again, this is just another stone in the gauntlet of Tom Brady, and again, an Adam Vinatieri game-winning field goal. You can't go wrong with a game-winning field goal basically as time expires. So, got to give this Super Bowl credit. All right, let's go to Super Bowl 55, which, if you're noticing a theme of quarterbacks, Tom Brady's going to be on this list a lot. Super Bowl 55, I'm going to put in mid. Now, I hate to do it to you, Bucs fans, and I know my boy is watching this video, so I appreciate you, Bucs fans. I'm not a hater anymore. This Super Bowl wasn't great. Now, where this Super Bowl gets major points is for the storyline and for the historical significance, because this game is going to be, I think, the driving force in the potential Patrick Mahomes GOAT argument debate years down the line, right? Mahomes isn't Brady status yet, but when he gets there, people will point to this game and say, well, Tom Brady beat Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl. And I think very rarely in sports do we have the two greatest players, position players, whatever, face off in a championship game, and one just clearly dominates the other, right? We never saw Michael Jordan against LeBron in the finals, right? We never saw Mike Trout, not that the Angels ever make the playoffs, that's a bad example, but you know what I mean. So this game is going to be a very historically significant, and I think as the years go on and Mahomes continues to have more and more and more success, this game will always be kind of the scar on his ledger, basically, like that, if that makes sense. But again, not a lot of terribly significant plays. I think the most famous one is probably the Antonio Winfield, like the peace sign that he gave to Tyreek. I don't think that this game was a fantastic finish. It was a blowout. I mean, it wasn't super fun to sit through the whole game. The Bucs just dominated. The Chiefs' offensive tackles were, selling the game. So not a great Super Bowl. Definitely gets points for the significance and for the storyline. Brady versus Mahomes is all time. But the game itself wasn't all that. All right, next we have Super Bowl 40 featuring the Steelers and the Seahawks. Now, again, I was not a Seahawks fan at this time. I was an infant, in fact, so I did not watch this game live, so I do not have an emotional, visceral reaction like I probably would if I was in my teens or 20s. But this game was not that good. It was 21-10, the Steelers. I think you had some good storylines. Shaun Alexander was the MVP of the league that year. I think the Seahawks offense was humming. You obviously had that amazing Pittsburgh Steelers defense. I think the other really cool storyline in this game was Jerome Bettis, playing in his final game of his career in his home city, finally winning the Super Bowl. That obviously was really cool. But the game itself wasn't great. The Seahawks just kind of got crushed. Like, there's really nothing to it. Points, though, for the significant play, the trick play touchdown from Antoine Randall L. to Hines Ward. That's an all-timer. That's super awesome in the Super Bowl. So, honestly, I'm going to put it at the top of mid. It does have some big plays. It did have, some pretty cool storylines with Shaun Alexander, with both the running backs, honestly. Matt Hasselbeck was also, don't let anybody tell you Matt Hasselbeck wasn't that guy in his prime. He was that dude. But not something super memorable, truthfully. Historically, it was Ben's second Super Bowl it was his first Super Bowl out of 2 Super Bowls that he would win. So it is pretty significant. And obviously it's for a franchise in the Steelers that has won a lot of Super Bowls. But to me, this is nothing special. We'll see a lot better with Super Bowls. Speaking of that, Super Bowl 48, I'm just going to be straight up. This Super Bowl was hot ass. Now, I'm a Seahawks fan. I absolutely love this Super Bowl. I thought it was the greatest shit ever. But I have to take a step back and think objectively as a fan of the National Football League. Watching this Super Bowl, I would have been bored out of my mind. The Seahawks absolutely dominated the Denver Broncos. From the opening snap, right? Ball goes over Peyton Manning's head. Seahawks never look back. And I will say, the one thing about the Super Bowl that I loved was the storyline. You had the Denver Broncos offense, who was, arguably the best in league history. Peyton Manning was the MVP, threw 55 touchdowns that year against the Legion of Boom, the Seahawks. I mean, how legendary are they? Come on. I mean, they were just coming off a fantastic NFC Championship game against the 49ers. But the game itself wasn't all that. It was a complete blowout. You want to talk about historical significance? It is the Seahawks' first Super Bowl in history, which is significant, and it is a loss for Peyton Manning. But the game was not very entertaining. It was all Seahawks. You do have a memorable play with the Malcolm Smith pick six, but when the Super Bowl is won by 35 points, it's just kind of like whatever. Like you can't rank it high because it was a snooze fest. And again, if you're just an objective fan of the NFL, it wasn't really a good game at all. Now, Super Bowl 43, Steelers, Cardinals. I'm going to put it up in pretty damn good. Here's why, right? So, this is obviously the second Super Bowl of Big Ben Roethlisberger's career. It was his second win against the Arizona Cardinals. Now, the storyline going into this game was crazy, right? The Arizona Cardinals, who had begun the year kind of thinking they were going to go with Matt Leinart, their young quarterback out of USC, transitioned to Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner, at this point in his career, was not the MVP Super Bowl participant that he was with the Rams, right? He had kind of fallen off. He had had a lot of injury problems with the Rams, went to the Giants. He had backed up Eli Manning for a while, and he came to Arizona probably with the same intention, to do so with Matt Leinart, what he did with Eli Manning. Little did the Cardinals and himself know that he was going to step in, he was going to ball out, and he was going to lead this team to somewhere that they have never been, to the Super Bowl. And, they played some really awesome playoff games. The Packers game in particular was fantastic that year. And, Kurt Warner, the redemption arc was real. Again, you got the Steelers, who now are led by Mike Tomlin, who are going back and trying to win their, second Super Bowl in about 4 years. And this game was really, really good. Really good. You want to talk about significant plays? This game has them in spades. First of all, you have the James Harrison pick six to end the half. Quite literally a 14-point swing in a tight ball game. That's massive. You have the late game heroics of Larry Fitzgerald taking that slant route, just booking it down the field for that long touchdown. And then honestly, you have what is, I think, undoubtedly the greatest catch in Super Bowl history. The Santonio Holmes toe tap swag on the sideline. Just unbelievable throw, unbelievable catch. The Steelers actually had to drive, really far distance, so the drive was good as well. Major points for the finish, for the plays. Historically significant, again, it was Big Ben's second. Not the most significant Super Bowl in the world, but the game itself, that fourth quarter is just the shit of legends. So you can't go wrong. That game was absolutely fantastic. It's hard to get better. Next, and again, this pains me as a Seattle Seahawks fan, I promise you, but we're going to put Super Bowl 49 in GOATed. Super Bowl 49 has a lot of big storylines. I think some people forget, Tom Brady won a Super Bowl in 2004, and he hadn't won one for another decade. Like, we kind of forget that there was a decade span where Tom Brady didn't win a Super Bowl. He had lost two to the Giants, and there was kind of some thought like, hey, is Brady gonna win a Super Bowl again? Meanwhile, you have the Seahawks, who are coming off of a dominant Super Bowl victory. They had this amazing comeback against the Packers in the NFC Championship game. It really did look like the stars were aligning perfectly for the Seahawks to go back to back. So, storyline, check. Historical significance, not a lot of quarterbacks have won two Super Bowls, and Russell Wilson was very much in line to do so. Meanwhile, for Tom Brady, he had three, right? He was still behind Joe Montana at this point. I think that this game is very high on the historically significant category. Same thing with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick was not yet considered the GOAT of all GOATs. Brady wasn't either. There was still a very real debate that it was Joe Montana, because Joe Montana had four Super Bowls. But so this game was massive for Brady and the Patriots, and for the Seahawks as well. Again, going to the storyline, Tom Brady, Legion of Boom. I mean, this as good as it gets, right? This is fantastic. There was the whole like, you mad, bro? I don't know if you guys remember that stuff from like the early Legion of Boom days. Very prevalent. It was good storyline. And then we want to talk about significant plays. I mean, come the fuck on. The biggest play maybe in the history of the Super Bowl was the Malcolm Butler interception. You had the Jermaine Kearse catch. You had, people forget, the Julian Edelman touchdown at the end of the game. Just crazy, crazy, crazy shit. The finish was fantastic. The Seahawks, snatched defeat from the jaws of victory, as I like to say. And it truly is everything you want in the Super Bowl. It had fans engaged till the very last play. It was one of the better Super Bowls. I believe that is the most watched Super Bowl as well. So bonus points for that. Not that it needs it, but bonus points for that. But there's nothing you can say. Super Bowl 43 was fantastic. I think everybody knows that. All right, let's go down here. Let's talk about Super Bowl 48. I'm skipping 34 for a second because I'm trying to make sure if it's the right Super Bowl I'm thinking of, because it's kind of hard. Only Kurt Warner's in that picture, so it's kind of hard to see. But anyway, Super Bowl 45, excuse me, not 48. It was pretty damn good. And I'm gonna make a executive decision here. I'm gonna make an executive decision. I'm gonna put the Cardinals and Steelers one in goated. It's got pretty much everything. I'll just say that it's got pretty much everything. 48, I'm gonna put in mid, because I don't know. I don't have like a long lasting like impression of this game. Again, historically significant, yes. It's Rodgers' only ring, and the only ring he'll ever get if he stays on the Jets. But it's not something that I really think is like, hey, this game was super good. Obviously, I know it came down to the wire. Aaron Rodgers was brilliant in this game, but I just don't think. Maybe this is my Illinois residency bias kicking in, but I just don't think that this game was anything special in terms of Super Bowls. There wasn't like a significant play. There wasn't a lot of historical events in the game. I don't know, just kind of whatever. It's just whatever. Super Bowl 47 is going up into pretty damn good category. What storyline in the history of Super Bowl has been more perplexing than the lights shutting off in the Super Bowl, the Superdome, the lights stopped working. That was crazy. Obviously, going into the game, you had the huge storyline of the Harbaugh brothers going against each other, which is the only time in Super Bowl history that two brothers have coached against each other in the Super Bowl. So in terms of storyline, you also got the 49ers, who were riding the hot streak of Colin Kaepernick. People forget that Alex Smith was a starter at the beginning of the year, and he got hurt. Kaepernick replaced him. Kaepernick played well, and he stayed the starter. Jim Harbaugh made the executive decision. We're going to ride it out with Kaepernick, and obviously that showed to be a good idea. So the storyline was great. The historical significance, it was pretty good. This was, the Ravens' second Super Bowl since going back to Baltimore. Joe Flacco's first, John Harbaugh's first as well. It was a pretty good finish, I will say, and there were a lot of historical plays. Jacoby Jones's kick return at the start of the second half was fantastic. This Super Bowl is just, I think, the dictionary definition of pretty damn good. It's nothing like insane, nothing like, oh my God, this is the best Super Bowl ever, but it's got a lot of memorable shit. It's got enough good plays, and the finish was pretty good as well. I mean, the 49ers season ended 2 years in a row, actually, ended with a, fade to Michael Crabtree in the end zone. Just saying. So, just, a pretty damn good Super Bowl, if I do say so myself. All right, Super Bowl 44. I'll also put this in pretty damn good because this is the only Super Bowl of Drew Brees' career. You look at the storylines: Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, two guys that really just dominated my childhood from the quarterback position. Guys I grew up watching. I'm sentimental about those guys, I will admit. Storyline was good. The Colts were trying to win another Super Bowl. It felt like you kind of felt like in the AFC, if the Colts could just get past the Patriots, they would be pretty good. And in 2006 they got past the Patriots, and in 2009 they also went farther than the Patriots, went to the Super Bowl. And you thought Peyton Manning was going to put together another good performance, and he made some bad mistakes, right? Historical plays in this game was the surprise onside kick from Sean Payton to start the second half. Genius call. Stole a possession from the Colts. And then obviously the big play is the Tracy Porter pick six against Peyton Manning. Try to say that 5 times fast, geez. But this game is so significant in my opinion because of what it did to the city of New Orleans. Just a few years earlier, they had suffered from Hurricane Katrina, and the Saints, Drew Brees and the Saints, had really done a good job of, I think, restoring hope into that community, and then bringing them a Lombardi just a few years later, as I think just so incredibly awesome and inspiring. So good for them, and I think that's a pretty damn good Super Bowl. Nothing special, but it's pretty damn good. Super Bowl 53. I'm going to put it in bad. I just thought that this game was a snooze fest. There were jokes during the game, and I think that they were probably legit, that if the Rams had won, Johnny Hekker might have been the MVP. I mean, he was legit awesome, but he's the punter, right? This Super Bowl was, just boring. It was 10-3. And I understand that defense is still a real thing, and that quality defensive performances should be celebrated, and I agree with that. But to a certain degree, when you're in the Super Bowl, you want some excitement, right? The most significant play in this game was the Stephon Gilmore pick. Again, that doesn't really stack up in terms of a lot of historical Super Bowl plays. The storyline in this game, McVay versus Belichick, was very compelling, I do think, but nothing crazy. Like I said, there was no fantastic finish. There was no significant plays. It just didn't have a lot. It left a lot to be desired, I think. Maybe you can argue that the most significant play was the Gronk pass up the seam from Brady, but I don't know. This is not a Super Bowl that I'm gonna think fondly of, and one that I kind of regret watching. Not that I regret watching, but I'm kind of not happy it happened. Anyway, Super Bowl 56. I'm gonna put it in pretty damn good category. I have a good taste of this game in my mouth. Pause. But the storyline in this game was pretty compelling. Sean McVay trying to redeem himself in the Super Bowl against his former assistant in Zach Taylor. Obviously, Joe Burrow was an ascending young star. Finally beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, something that only 2 people have ever done to this day. So this was, I think, a really good matchup. I think you looked at these two teams and you said, this is a really good matchup for these two guys. There were a good amount of plays that were significant. The Cooper Kupp game winner, obviously, is the most significant one against Eli Apple. I think every NFL fan loved that. But there was also the T. Higgins touchdown to start the second half that was probably pass interference, but we're not going to talk about it. Joe Burrow played a good game. Matthew Stafford really balled out. I think historical significance. This is huge. This is huge for Matthew Stafford's legacy as a quarterback. I think if he ends up making the Hall of Fame, which I think that there's a pretty good chance he does, this is the game that probably punctuates that. It is the first year that he was a Ram after that big trade from Detroit. That means that they automatically won the trade. I don't care what happened after that game. They won the trade because Matthew Stafford won them the Super Bowl single-handedly. They don't win that game with Goff. He made some unreal throws, unreal plays. The Rams were awesome in this game, and wasn't some crazy finish. It was actually, no, I take that back. It was pretty good. It was pretty good with the Cooper Kupp game-winning touchdown to punctuate his just otherworldly season. The holding call on Logan Wilson was kind of sucked ass. I'm gonna be real, kind of tainted it a little bit, but I won't take away from the Rams. I thought that this was a really good game, and honestly, it was a very good Super Bowl. It was a very good Super Bowl. All right, Super Bowl 50. Just being real, the shit was mid as hell. And the storyline going into this game was actually really good. Peyton Manning's probable last game against Cam Newton and the Panthers. They were 15-1 in the regular season. Cam Newton was the MVP. This is when like Dabin was getting to its peak. Superman Cam. The Panthers looked unstoppable, and the Broncos, they put together the formula to beat the Panthers, which was, yeah, harass Cam Newton. And what sucks, I think, the most about this game is that the most significant play in history of this game was the fumble that Cam Newton decided to not fall on. Like, that is such a bad, like, signature play for this game. That's such a bad signature play. Obviously, Von Miller was fantastic. I think it was historically significant because it gave Peyton Manning his second Super Bowl in his career. You know, I believe he was the first guy. He did it before Brady. I believe he was the first guy to win a Super Bowl with two different teams. So that was pretty cool. But the game itself was boring. There wasn't a lot of offense. Peyton Manning was a shell of himself. Like, he was really riding the ass of that Broncos defense. And, you know, the Panthers defense played pretty well, but just not good enough. You know, C.J. Anderson scored that touchdown. I believe the final score in this game was like 23-16, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't a particularly good game. And it was Super Bowl 50. Like, you know, you're thinking, oh, 50, this is going to be big. It's a half century of Super Bowls. And it just kind of was, it wasn't that good, unfortunately. So, all right, Super Bowl 51. My God, New England, you've outdone yourself. I'm going to put that above. Yeah, I'm going to put it above Super Bowl 49. Listen, here's the reason I say this. Historically significant. Are you fucking kidding me? It's the biggest blown lead in Super Bowl history. 28-3 is forever sketched into the memory of sports fans. That will never, ever, ever go away. Obviously, this was Brady's, fifth ring? Yeah, it's his fifth ring. I mean, this was just fantastic. You want to talk about signature plays. You have the Dante Hightower forced fumble, the Julian Edelman, bobble catch. Julio had a fucking fantastic catch on the side. This is prime Julio Jones we're talking about. James White scored the game-winning touchdown. This comeback was just everything that couldn't have happened for the Falcons, and that happened. New England, the first Super Bowl to go into overtime. It's the largest comeback in Super Bowl history, most two-point conversion Super Bowl history. There was a lot of records set in this game, so bonus points on top of bonus points on top of bonus points. Brady was, from the pick six on, was fantastic. This Super Bowl had everything. It is historically significant in every way. It was a fantastic finish. There was a lot of signature plays, and the storyline going into it was pretty good as well. So you really can't beat it. You absolutely cannot beat it. That is pretty much as good as it gets. All right, next we got for Super Bowl 52. The next year, Brady's fucking in every one of these games. It's so insane. All right. I think I'm going to put it in the bottom of GOATed because this was absolutely insane. Like, this is a Super Bowl that we might never see again. Nick Foles, a career backup, not career backup, but a guy who was a backup quarterback going into the season until like week 13 or 14 when Carson Wentz tore his ACL, facing off against Tom Brady. And beating him in the Super Bowl. I can't understand that. You want to talk about historical significance? Philly's first Super Bowl win, against Belichick, revenging their loss from about 15 years prior, was super awesome. You want to talk about the fantastic finish? Absolutely, this was a great finish. Signature plays. You have the Zach Ertz touchdown. You have what's the most significant play maybe in the history of the Super Bowl? Philly, the Philly special. The image of Nick Foles catching that touchdown pass is gonna be in Philadelphia bars forever, literally forever. So happy for them. And that play, that Super Bowl is just really, really good as well. Super Bowl 36. I'm gonna put in pretty damn good. Listen. This is a game where not a lot of people expected the Patriots to win. Like, the Patriots, this is before they had won Super Bowls. They're going against the greatest show on turf in the Rams, who had won the Super Bowl 2 years prior. This is a game that not a lot of people expected, the Patriots to win. This was Tom Brady's coming out party. They had an awesome, start to the game, and then the Rams furiously came back. Ricky Proehl scored that touchdown on the left sideline. And, Brady, this was the moment when people noticed Brady. They really said, oh, shit, Brady might be that guy because you have the infamous line of John Madden on the broadcast saying, "Well, I think they should play for overtime here," and then Tom Brady marches them down the field, 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 and we get one of our two Adam Vinatieri game-winning field goals in the Super Bowl. Great finish. Hugely historical. Tom Brady's first Super Bowl. The storyline was really, really good. We were talking about the greatest show on turf. There's actually a famous soundbite. I believe it's by Ricky Prohl during that game, where he says the dynasty starts today, and what he was meaning was that the Rams were going to win their second Super Bowl in 3 years, and it was going to be the dynasty. But what actually ended up happening, in a cruel twist of irony, was that was the start of the Patriots dynasty. So just crazy kind of how that happens. Good finish, signature plays. There was a Ty Law pick six. Obviously, you had the Vinatieri field goal. Really good. This is just really, really good Super Bowl right there. Let's go ahead and talk about Super Bowl 34, which I'm also going to put in pretty damn good. I'm going to put it above the Niners and Ravens. Listen, you had in this game Kurt Warner, who was basically a rookie, right? One MVP in his rookie year, was the best offense, the greatest show on turf, like I said. They were kind of struggling for a little bit in this game, and they got it going. They had that pass, that long pass. I believe it was to Isaac Bruce, not 100% sure. Maybe it was either Isaac Bruce or Torrey Holt to catapult them. And then, what a way to finish by, the Kevin Dyson just stretching the ball out and just unable to get it across the goal line. Great finish, very historically significant for Kurt Warner. It's his only Super Bowl win. Sad for the Titans, unfortunately, because they did not have a Super Bowl win. But Eddie George, Steve McNair, Javon Curse, those guys were awesome. And just a good game, just a really good game. Nothing super crazy, but just a really good game overall. Let's talk about Super Bowl 35. This game was not that good. I mean, let's just be real here. Like, it wasn't that good. The Ravens defense absolutely suffocated the fuck out of the Giants. And this is one of those Super Bowls where it's just kind of not entertaining. The only points the Giants scored were on a kickoff return touchdown, which the Ravens immediately proceeded to get a kickoff return touchdown of their own. So this was just not a good Super Bowl. Historical significance, yes, it was the Ravens' first Super Bowl, back in Baltimore. But, I mean, their quarterback, Trent Dilfer, I don't know. The Giants with Kerry Collins never did anything significant after that, so not very high. Not a lot of significant plays, I would think. The Dexter Jackson pick six was good, obviously, but now this did cement the Ravens defense into legitimate GOAT defense conversation, but the game itself wasn't that good, so I'm not going to put it in up on my tier list. Super Bowl 39 between the Eagles and the Patriots. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm going to move some of these games around before I get into that. I'm going to move around these two. I'm going to put that there. And I'm probably going to switch. I'm going to switch these two as well. Super Bowl 39, this was Brady's third ring, so the historical significance of it is not super crazy. The Eagles were obviously getting to the Super Bowl for the first time after getting to the NFC Championship game every single year, not being able to finish. So that's pretty good for them. Donovan McNabb, and the game was close. It was 21-24. Donovan McNabb had an opportunity to get a drive going and win this game, but he threw a pick to Ronnie Harrison. So it really was kind of a limp noodle. Whatever. So I'm going to put this game in mid. There's not a whole lot to be remembered about this game that's super significant, wasn't super historically significant, didn't have a whole bunch of, signature plays. I will say it is pretty cool, the fact that Terrell Owens played this game on a broken leg. But other than that, that doesn't save him. Super Bowl 46. This was pretty damn good, I will say. I'm going to put it behind the Saints one. Eli versus Brady 2.0, similar situation. The Patriots weren't nearly as good in 2011 as they were in 2007 when they were undefeated, but they were still a damn good football team. And the Giants kind of had the same recipe of get after Brady and Eli magic. That's really what their recipe was. This one was the Mario Manningham catch. So that was obviously a huge play as well. One thing that I think people forget about this game is that Ahmad Bradshaw scored too early. The Patriots let him score, and he accidentally got into the end zone too early. The Patriots had a little bit of time to get the ball back and score. They didn't, and the Giants won their second Super Bowl. Now, historical is very significant for Eli Manning's career, second Super Bowl. The storyline was good. Eli versus Brady 2.0. Good amount of significant plays. There wasn't really like, I guess the finish was pretty good, but it wasn't like anything super crazy. Like it wasn't like oh my god, like I'm at the edge of my seat. It's like, all right, get a stop, Giants. There were the safety in this game obviously was a big part of it. So it was pretty good. It wasn't great, but it was, again, I think more historically significant than anything. And then the last Super Bowl, Super Bowl 54. Now, I am going to go ahead and put it up here because I think that this Super Bowl is going to grow in historical significance because now we have the rematch coming up. So maybe if Mahomes does it again, it'll be a little lower. Maybe if the Niners win, it'll be a little lower. Who knows, right? But this game has a lot of things that you really want. Andy Reid, first Super Bowl win. The Chiefs' first Super Bowl win in, I think, what was it, 53 years or something like that. It's a big deal. And this was Mahomes' first, I believe, of many. The Chiefs were down in this game 2 possessions late in the fourth quarter, and they came back. The significant play in this game is the wasp throw to Tyreek Hill. Got him in position, won the game. Jimmy G can't throw the football. That sucks for the 49ers. And this is a pretty good game. Nothing crazy. This isn't like some super finish. There wasn't any huge significant plays. The historical significance was great for the Chiefs, but not as kind of a whole. And then like the storyline was pretty good. Nothing special. So this is my tier list for the Super Bowl since 2000. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And I'll talk to you guys in a later video. Peace out.